do. Hey, we're back. During the break,
During the break.
we
You
went
guys
to the
wore the
bath.
same clothes from last week.
we've been over this, Paul. I only have 2 shirts.
All right.
All right.
I've been wearing underwear for the last 7
Welcome to
days,
week
so.
2. I'm asking for a friend. It's gross.
It's an inside joke.
It's an inside joke.
joke.
Inside joke.
I'd like to get us going here. Hey, we're answering some questions, fun, tough questions, submitted by students, for students.
By students.
Here's number 1. We just had an election. I do not accept the results. How do I live if I don't respect the current governmental administration?
You know, unfortunately, I feel like this election has been full of more turmoil than most of the other elections. And I seem like this election, it is like almost polarized people in a way of like, you kind of don't even want to say who you voted for, because if the other person would not vote that same way, it's almost like this like weird cultural thing where you hate the person if you don't vote the same, and it's just weird. I don't think it was ever supposed to be like that.
Correct.
But there have been presidents that I did not vote for that got in office, and I was pretty disappointed when I heard the result. And I remember I'm like, it's going to be a long 4 years, and this is going to be hard to bite my tongue, and just not talk about it. But I think whether or not the person that you voted for or would have voted for if you're not old enough to vote, whether they're in office or not, it's the President of the United States. Every president needs prayer. Every president needs to have like intercessors that are, okay, God, give them the strength, give them wisdom, give them compassion for the people. Guide this president, so that they know how to lead the country for the next 4 years. Because if God can, talk through a donkey in the Old Testament, I'm pretty sure God can work through any single president, that he chooses. And so I think that even if you don't respect or you don't want to accept the results, well, whether you accept it or not, they're going to be president for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to deal with it. It's just a matter of how you deal with it. And if you don't respect the person, respect the seat that person sits in, and start praying for them.
Yeah. I think I have pretty strong feelings about this, and I feel like I have a lot of conversations about this kind of thing because I feel a real tension between reconciling with the idea that the people who are in power, that does have real life effect on real people. And so sometimes I think Christians move too far in the direction of it doesn't really matter, right? Just deal with it. Let's just find the things we agree on. And I tend to be the guy over there, like waving the flag, going like, "No, this is hurting people. Like this, these political practices or this, these institutions are hurting people." So I feel that tension, and I feel like now more than ever, because of this sort of polarization, which I actually don't think, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually don't think we're as polarized as we think we are. I think people tend to agree on more things than they think they do, but we have this great big, social media system and all kinds of things that point out the things that we disagree on and amplify those things. But that's a whole other question. My overarching thought about this is that, we are called to love our enemies, pray for those who persecute us, right? And so I tend to agree with you, Becca, that there is sort of a mantle for praying for our leadership, whether we agree with them or not. And I don't necessarily see that as a demand for respect so much as a call from in my heart that like I would need to do that with anybody that I looked at as someone I disagreed with, not just someone who I owe allegiance or respect to. So I feel that real strongly, and that's been a real struggle for me sometimes to find that in my heart, to pray for leadership with whom I don't agree. On the other hand, and this is maybe another extreme, but I mean, a few years ago I read Dietrich Bonhoeffer's biography, and like there's a guy that we look at as being like a Christian martyr, like almost a saint, someone that we've elevated because his ministry was so powerful. And he got executed by the German government for inciting an assassination attempt on Adolf Hitler that failed, and he got caught doing it and executed, and wrote his most famous book in jail, waiting to be executed for treason. And so I feel like we do, in Christian history, have sort of, people who are looking at their faith more than they were looking at their allegiance to their government, or even seeing their government as being deserving of respect. And so, I'm not saying we should try to assassinate the president or anything, but I feel like there is a tension there of love your enemies, but also like my first allegiance is not to a country or a flag. It's to a king, and he's a good king, and he's inaugurating a good kingdom, and that's where my jumping off point is.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you see through scriptures. You see a lot of men living and serving under kings that they did not bow down to, they did not worship, yet they still served, and they still worked alongside them, and then they did good things and actually changed the minds of some kings and stuff like that. So that's why, I mean, the Bible is very important to read through, because the stuff that we're seeing today isn't new.
No.
This is thousands of years in the making. As long as human beings have been here, this is nothing new. But yeah, look to the good examples that we see through scriptures, and I love what you guys said about that too, and I just think it's great.
I think what you keyed on at the end is really good. How do we live through this? It's in our home. Our home's in heaven. Our home's, if we're followers of Jesus, like that's where our home's at. So like this here on earth is so temporary. Like, yeah, like there's certain things like you said throughout church history you see where people stood up for injustices towards like what God would stand up for. Like that's ultimately our allegiance lies there. But it also commands us to pray, to honor the people that God's placed. Like Jesus did this constantly. Like think about that time, like, hey, taxes. Like who do you pay taxes? Jesus like render to Caesar what's Caesar's. Like he even honored government officials in the way he lived. I think we just model our life, but I think it always how we live through this. You don't have to accept it. That's fine. Like that's, but you do have to understand this is not your home. So
That's good.